And we're live. All right. Thanks everyone for joining today. I'm here with Chelsea Kneeland from Multifamily Insiders. So thrilled to have the conversation today. Chelsea, if you don't know her, well, you're missing out. We've had chats before and lots of, for starters, you're probably lacking data, which is a segue to something else to talk about later. I've had a chance of listening to some of Chelsea's talks from the data you look at from ALN, for different regions that we're members of. We're members of Austin Apartment Association and Dallas Apartment Association. Some of your insights and conclusions and blunt truths about what's going on in the market are outstanding content. Also, of course, you're connected with Brent Williams, a leader at Multifamily Insiders, and you guys have done some incredible work in terms of sharing innovation, ideas, and really driving forward. I would say the transformation we're living in right now, but offering a bit of a candlelight at the end of the tunnel that we're all kind of seeking to find or seeking to source. For everyone here today that's listening, like all the Getting Healthy episodes, we talk about kind of the change in the sales process, where our buyers have more information than ever before. There really is a pursuit of exchanging a fair value between buyers and sellers, and buyers are seeking to solve problems versus be persuaded and bought something they don't need to buy. So what's exciting about these conversations is that we hope they're nice. Brent just chimed in there. But nice. We do this live principally because we want to get the cold hard and the immediate reactions, and we also want to dig in a little bit. So if there are questions from the audience, bring them up and we'll go through it, and we'll bring them up and we'll answer them live. So it's kind of fun that way. This does get published in the podcast later on. There's blogs, there's all sorts of stuff. So follow Chelsea and myself on LinkedIn, and you'll get some of those in your feed. This is brought to you by RCX. We're AI remote property maintenance software that helps people solve 3 problems: trips, triage, and turns. And we'll get into this chat with Chelsea. Thrilled to have this conversation. And as we always start, Chelsea, a bit about your background. What's the problem you solve?
Let me tell you a little bit about my background, because like so many of us, I fell into multifamily. I love to hear people's multifamily origin stories because it's always something crazy, right? It's never like, I went to school for this and I set out to be in multifamily. It's usually something wild. And I was in college for a special education degree. I've always loved education. I worked in a tanning salon. Hello. 1990s and early 2000s. So embarrassing to say now.
Oh my God. That's good.
And this wonderful woman came in and she said, "Do you smile like that all the time?" And I was like, what are you talking about? And she said, "If you smile like that all the time and you're always this friendly, come interview with me and I'll pay you $2 more an hour." Children, that was a lot. Okay. We were very excited for $2 more an hour. And so I went and interviewed with her and started out on the leasing track, became a leasing agent, and then worked my way through kind of many of the positions in the operations side of things, and then transitioned over in the apartment guide days to a sales career. And then I've had a long sales career. And because of my passion in education and data, that turned into director of research at J. Turner Research, and then innovation insider at Multifamily Insiders, where I am happy and love it here. It's great.
Oh, that's outstanding. And so that's your journey has got you Multifamily Insiders. You've been there for almost a year now, or up to over a year. And to tell me about Multifamily Insiders a little bit for everyone that doesn't know. Like, I think that what's interesting about Multifamily Insiders, and I love what you guys are doing. I think you guys are, like I said, you're coordinating the thinking about what we need to be thinking about, but many people don't understand that that's a business.
Yeah.
You don't do it for free.
Yeah.
Right. So somebody exchanges, value for what you guys, the value you deliver. Yep. What's the problem? Who's the target?
Yeah. Let me tell you a little bit about it. So I love to say, and Brent, I hope this is fine. I'm sure it is, but that we connect. I know I'm like, we're live, too late. We connect great people with great ideas. Right. There's so much innovation. There's so much changing in our industry. And we have really 2 different groups that we serve. So one is our owner operator side of things, where we're really looking for those folks, the executives truly, who are interested in innovation. They have got great teams. Maybe they've got great data. Maybe they are really made great decisions to get them to where they are today, but they need to take that next step. Or they're looking for that one missing piece that would really help them with centralization or help streamline what they do every day in their operations, or save them a little money or drive additional revenue. They really are looking to take the next step and do something different. So that's one side. And then the second side is we are talking with the newest, the coolest, the Irises, all of these folks that are amazing, right? That have new tech that is amazing, that some innovation that isn't just the same thing we've always done it the way we've always done things.
Right.
So the companies that are on the forefront, even some of our companies that have been legacy companies to our industry, but are really driving innovation, we work with them as well. And we try to connect those two together. So if you have a really cool product or a really cool service and you want to get together with people who are ready for innovation, we get you together. We're speed dating almost.
Well, yeah, I mean, so I think it's important to acknowledge that two-sided marketplaces are not easy.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
So like, congratulations to the whole team there. Cause like,
yeah,
I will do a lot of things daringly, but I will not get into two-sided marketplaces because I don't have the mental, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And I've wanted to, like, for my lifetime, like I've read all the platform books and all this stuff, but I'm like, that just seems like way too complicated for me.
It's a lot of fun because we have such a passion for the industry. So we also offer a ton of education. We have a lot of community building that we do because we want our multifamily industry, again, on both sides, to have a place where they can come talk to each other and solve problems and really understand like what's going on in other parts of the United States or other areas even, and get to talk to people who are combating the same things that they are. So that's something that's really driving us right now too, is that community and getting everyone together and getting them educating and elevating our community.
And I would think that's kind of like the brand that you guys have built around community. And I tried with Brent around this one time is really, it's exceptionally compelling. It's like the safe oasis in the desert, right? Like you guys have done a really good job of making it, there's like permission to talk, permission to be objective, permission to be confrontational, permission to share the deep dark secrets about what you wouldn't otherwise share or talk about, because it's a safe place to talk, right? And a safe place to share ideas. And you guys do such a good job at and I'll speak to you specifically, like the insights that you deliver to the people in the business that otherwise wouldn't come from the data stack. Like I look at like, what Jay Parsons does and what you're doing, at taking all that stuff and there you go. I don't know, do you see the comments? I can't remember.
Yes.
The things that you guys get to do synthesizes the noise while everyone else is busy doing their job.
Yeah.
And so that drip on what's going on outside of the grind that everyone's in, especially right now, creates a certain amount of authority on what's happening. And what I really like about what you guys are doing for everybody is you're not just like cascading opinions like I do. It's actually all backed in data. And that's the part that I find to be incredibly empowering, because, we obviously want to make our pitches founded in data, because ultimately it's always going to come to an ROI or NOI conversation. But it's difficult to find the data from the noise, right? If I go look at whatever ALN, or if I go look at some of the reports that are coming out of the other different sources, it's really hard. And so appreciate you guys for that. Well, and that's not revenue generating for you guys.
No. I've always had a passion for data and learning and education. I mean, if there's one thing that drives me, that is it. And I have to say, before we get any further, Guillermo, to be in the same sentence as Jay Parsons.
Well, there you go.
I'm just not happy right now. I can't believe that you would even compare the two of us. Jay, hi.
Don't make it simple. It's easy.
It's amazing.
I mean, there you go. Well, I'll give it to you. That's what I think about.
Thank you. But, I really have always wanted to be able to find these insights and find this information that maybe we weren't looking at, or we could look at in a different way, and it could drive our industry forward. And so it's something that I've always been really passionate about. And luckily, Brent is like, girl, yes, do your thing. We love this, right? This is amazing. And so we're able to do that at Multifamily Insiders and really figure out like, what are the companies that are using this, right? Where are companies that are kind of breaking forward, doing something new and exciting, and not just saying we're innovating, right? It's not just the companies that are like, oh, AI, we're using AI.
Yeah.
I'm like, tell me how, where, what's going on? How can this really help us? And then I'm often able to translate that for our leaders, because so often there's a disconnect, right? I wish there wasn't, but there's a disconnect between the supplier partners who are providing a solution being able to speak the same language as our operators. So in some ways, we're just translating for everyone and trying to make sure everybody's on the same page, speaking the same language, and knows what is out there, because we're too busy. We have too much going on. And especially on the operation side, they just, man, it is overwhelming to try to get to all of the solution providers, figure out what would be best for them, what their tech stack should look like even. So if we can introduce them to some companies quickly or some ideas quickly that it's really going to be impactful for them, that's for us our bread and butter, what we love.
You know, what's interesting in the innovation space, right? In terms of like, so if I kind of capture what you're talking about, like the problem that we're trying to solve is getting better, right? And the path to get there is through considering innovation. And you help bring together the problem side of the equation, and then people who have ideas on how to solve that problem. Have you ever dug into the Dublin framework? So, and this is because, so previous to this, I worked at Deloitte, and we were in duty consulting business, and a bunch of pitches we did around innovation. This is like 2016 to 2019. And there's a ton of pitch on innovation. So you had like IDEO coming out with design frameworks. You had like all these different things. One of the books that came out was one of the companies that Deloitte bought called Dublin. And Dublin had 10 lenses of innovation framework. Why it was interesting, particularly in this business, because I kind of see this all the time, is that two kind of things, like save the $30, here's the book, is that two kind of like a 2x2, which is consulting. So, hey, surprise. And it was like, there's like your core business, and then it was a radiance, right? Like one of those kind of graphs, and your core business. And then there's adjacent innovation, and then there's transformational innovation. And they use all these different case studies to talk about core business, core innovation, adjacent innovation, and transformational innovation. And their point was that transformational innovation is achieved either by pure luck, like pure luck or external circumstances, or the kind of disciplined approach to do it is to take adjacent innovation, and then link them together into creating what's transformational. And the example everyone likes to use is like Apple, but like Apple is transformational in hindsight. But if you were to go back and look at the generations of iPhones, generations of just things and services they offer, they were all adjacent to the previous version of adjacency, right? And so that makes it less scary, because transformation is super scary to buy. And so I never even use the word. Disruptive is even scarier. And so we talk about adjacent
especially
innovation.
Here in this space, say disruptive, right? And we're like, I don't know about that.
And so they talk about how like there's different types of innovation, and we should really be pursuing adjacent innovation with the roadmap to the problem that we're seeking to solve through transformational innovation. And then you get into the 10 types of innovation. And that's interesting. Why I brought that up is that when you're talking about innovation that you're doing right now, the brokering that you guys are doing, what I keep seeing over and over again thematically, and you brought it up when you talk about everyone's origin story in multifamily, is that the sources for innovation in multifamily, I don't believe that they're going to come from within multifamily. I believe that we're going to port them over from other industries. Like we talk about telemedicine, telemaintenance, right? We're porting over proven approaches to solving similar problems, and then, maybe tuning the last 20% to fit multifamily. And that's something that I'd like to see more from Multifamily Insiders, is like, this is how, this is an asset and revenue business. That's it. And so like, if we take that and look at other asset and revenue businesses, or other people in revenue businesses, and we're to take ideas out of there and say, hey, here's a different idea that has got nothing to do with multifamily. So please don't ask how many units are under management, because there's none. But this is the problem that they sought to solve and how they solved it. And I'm taking over the podcast, but like that, when we talk about innovation, I mean, obviously something like I'm really deeply passionate about. It's something that like it's difficult to adopt to something new.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's very risky. Like from a career perspective, like you have to acknowledge that there's risk in being innovative.
Yep.
And the returns need to outlast the risk. Because the easy thing to do is to hire more people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what everyone does.
Yep.
And so when you guys are talking to people out there, that was a long way to get to a short question. Like, what are people looking to when they think about innovation? Why are they thinking about innovation? Number one. And why now are they thinking about innovation?
Oh, well, let's talk about it, right? Why are they thinking about innovation? I really believe it's because we're forced to now.
Mm-hmm.
I hate talking about the pandemic and saying all of a sudden we got catapulted into a futurist or looking a little more into the future in our mindset for so long. I think our industry has done well. We haven't had to innovate because things were going great. We didn't have a problem with revenue, right?
Yep.
There wasn't an issue.
It's the grasshopper in the ant. It's like the
yeah,
favorite.
and there wasn't anything really that was going to change in the future as far as we could see. And all of a sudden, when our whole world's turned upside down for everybody, that made our industry go, oh, wait, something could happen. Like this is the something that happened this time, but something else could happen next time. I'm sorry, y'all. I know I don't want it to, but it's the reality we live in. And so I think that opened many of our operators' eyes into saying like, okay, we made it through this just maybe with luck or with by the skin of our teeth. What are we going to do next time so we're ahead of the game and we can actually change? And I also feel like, and Guillermo, I might be wrong, but that forced change made everybody be maybe this much more comfortable with innovation and change. So now they're like, oh, okay, well, self-guided tours actually didn't destroy our entire industry. So now maybe we could be more open to telemaintenance or other things that would really be helpful to us that we were too scared to do before. So I think at the end of the day, it was that we had to be forced into innovation, and then they realized it wasn't as scary and that there were some great outcomes. And we saw the companies that were adopting a lot of these things early on, they were better poised to make it through a changing market. And we all know now that it's going to continue to change. And so the companies that are poised to do something different and are ready and looking forward, they're going to be the ones who I think are really successful in the future.
Do you guys ever get into the business of like, and again, this is another revenue line, Brent, like case study composition?
We do case studies. Studies. Yeah, we do that pretty frequently. Actually, it's something that we just did one that was amazing. We also, one of my favorite things that we get to do and I get to lead are our focus groups. So I love finding out for a supplier, partner, or solution provider what the real insight is. I do have to always tell people, you're not allowed to get mad at me, okay? Because might be a little too honest. It might make you feel a little uncomfortable, but we're going to find out from our decision makers why they are or are not choosing you. And it can be a tough conversation, but it sure is enlightening, and it's invaluable to hear from real people what's going on and what they think about a brand or a product or why they aren't choosing to move forward with that innovation. And sometimes it can be really enlightening.
Well, the truth, I mean, sure, the truth hurts, but the reality is that the alternative is worse.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like pursuing an idea and funding it without the directives from the market can be very expensive. There's not enough time on earth, right? You don't have days on earth. Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you get, so, you know, the way I hear it is that is there a gap on the client side? Like case studies on the operators, the owners, like for them to articulate the innovations, because it might be useful for the market to hear success stories around innovation that aren't being told by a vendor.
Yeah.
We tell them every single day, but it's like, that sounds great. You know, you've obviously got a horse in the race.
Yeah.
Like, does that happen to you?
Yeah. So by no means do I want this to just be like a pitch for things that I'm passionate about, but that is actually the segue to what we're doing. So we have a really incredible series that is kind of the baby that we've just created that we're in love with, called Leadership Lab. So Leadership Lab takes all of our owner operator side of our groups. They come in, they have executive roundtables. So there's each leadership lab is specific to a problem. Our first one was about fraud, right? We knew fraud was a problem. We know people want to talk about it. They want to hear how other people are finding a solution. They come in and have executive roundtables for an hour on the first event. The second part of the event in this series is when we bring in solution providers, but the twist is also some customers of those solution providers. And then you can go speak directly to those customers and find out, how were things implemented? How's the customer service? I keep saying it's like a live Google Q&A with real customers, and people have gone crazy for it. Everybody loves it because they get to find out what everyone else is doing in the space, but then get their questions answered immediately with a solution and with customers who have already chosen that solution and find out why did they choose that. So yeah, Leadership Lab. Next one is May 13th and 15th. So hopefully everybody is going to join us. It's a lot of fun and combines that sweet spot where we are, right? Education, innovation, forward thinking with how we're doing it. It's all virtual. So it's absolutely incredible.
I mean, I think the beauty of virtual, I mean, look, we all like in person, but the beauty of virtual is that you're able to capture all the conversations and then play them back to everybody out, after the session. We're doing one with NRHC and a masterminds group there on the BTR side of things. And we've done one for field services, and it's been incredibly productive, even the first 2 meetings. They're just talking about turns and maintenance and so on. Because and one of the things that I'm working with, Greg Frank is running it. And I'm like, what would be great is if the vendors were only allowed to ask questions.
Yeah.
Not allowed to talk. You can only ask questions. And so if we can make some sort of a rule that you can only ask clarifying questions or maybe share, that's about it. Other than that, we're not allowed to speak, and we shouldn't be allowed to speak because if we start speaking, then we're talking over the problem.
Yeah. So one of the things that I noticed in the industry, and for those of you who did this, trust me, your identity is being protected. I won't tell who, but I kept having executives come up to me after I'd spoken at, NAA or AIM or TA or wherever, and they would kind of grab me by the elbow and be like, Chelsea, can you come talk to me for a second? And I'm like, yeah. And they say, hey, I don't actually understand, and I'm going to pick the hot topic of the day, artificial intelligence. They're like, I get kind of what's going on, but could you take an hour or 2 hours and just come and sit down with me and show me, explain this to me? And I realized after this had happened over and over and over again, that there was really a gap in our leadership, not just understanding new innovation. I don't mean that. There's some that are much better at it than I am, but in being able to talk to each other and figure out what was happening, what they were seeing. And that is where there's no vendors, no supplier partners in that first roundtable section, because it is just led with a structured conversation leader, somebody in this space asking questions, guiding them through the conversation so that they can really learn as much as possible from each other and talk to each other. And it's been incredible. So I really love it. Yeah.
It would be, incredibly a fly on the wall in those conversations and just hear the outside, the conversations, because as vendors, we do a lot of guessing, right? We try and de-risk the guesses as obviously as much as possible, but you end up to think beyond the current state solutions, you have to guess. That's a bet.
Yeah.
And so we think about those things and we try and de-risk it, again, porting from other industries. And so we rely on what you guys do, even, from what's available out there publicly or through the associations.
Yeah.
To start to figure out, okay, what's going on in the heads of these people that we're trying to sell to?
Yeah.
How can we be a priority? Because one thing that I've come to accept as a truth is just because it's a problem doesn't mean it's a priority.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And because it's my priority doesn't mean it's your priority.
Right. Oh, yep.
Right. And so a lot of the conversations we're having are now fit conversations. Right? They're like, look, I want to get on the same side as the person on the buyer side and say, hey, look, this might not be a fit. And that's okay. That's so okay. Because we don't want to try and force something that's unnatural. And you don't want to do something that's unnatural.
I am so happy to hear you say that, because one of the things as a sales leader I used to say to my team all the time, and I can hear them groaning internally right now, is I would say, hey, your Q4 doesn't mean shit to our customers. They don't care. They don't care. So stop making that your deadline, their problem. You should have handled this. We've got to work on these timelines and make sure that that's something we already knew and we're figuring out. But your arbitrary timeline for our company doesn't mean anything to them. But yeah, I think
I think that's a truth and a constraint, right?
Yeah.
And so this kind of like gets into the kind of the conversation that we're always looking to ask in this show is about the time wall, right? And time wall for everyone listening is like, you've got to do something by a certain date, compelling event, time wall, all those things. If you don't, so I've got a wedding, July 4th, I got to fit in the suit. So it's time for a diet, right? That kind of thing is an example of a time wall. Yeah. And often they're external, right? Yeah. They can be internal. The time walls that we're kind of like talking about a lot these days is growth plans, right? Yeah. People that want to grow, and because people that don't want to grow are difficult to sell to. But people that want to grow, the mindset's there and all those things. Yeah. But in your business, given that you have two sides, so what's the time? So maybe we'll kind of have it. Yeah. The two sides. So on the operator, why now would they? Why are they choosing like this quarter to do something?
So a couple of things with that time wall. I mean, I think the first issue or the first one that we always hear about is our budgets, right? So right before budget season, we want to find out all the new solutions that are available. We want to figure out exactly what's going on. They really want to know what they could use, or if they need to change a supplier partner that they already use, or if they need to budget differently for their specific community or for their entire portfolio. So I think that's one part of it. Mm-hmm. The second part that I think is really important there is you also have, at least in my mind, the constraint of if they are taking over additional properties or they're looking to pitch their management services to a large new group. If you go in there and say, hey, we would really love to help you manage your portfolio or your new build, but we do the same stuff that everybody else does, and there's no key differentiator, then they are going to lose that business. So I think those are the two typically on the operator side that are really driving them to make decisions and to look for what else is out there. On the supplier side or vendor side, I think our solution providers, often they're running up against like conference season and they can't be everywhere at once. They can't possibly, I know 1,000 of us are going to AIM and then TAA all in the same week, right?
Yeah, there's gonna be a nerd bird on Wednesday from like Anaheim to Houston.
Yes. So, how can you be everywhere at once? You can't. And so they're trying to do all that. And that's when, that just right before and right after kind of conference season is when we're able to really fill in the gap virtually with our demo days. And it's an incredible solution. And it gives everybody the ability to go, okay, I was able to take a breath. I had all my demos for my conferences. I went through all of this stuff. Did I miss anything? Was I too busy to talk to someone? Did I not get to sit down with somebody that I really wanted to? And to just see what else has changed. Did you hear that? What is happening?
Spoken like a teacher.
Yeah. What else has changed in that time period from, kind of the summer? I feel like conference season starts to end in like beginning of July a little bit. So from July on. Yeah. So after Apartmentalize, we're all exhausted. We probably have the flu. We go home and then we have demo day in August, which kind of fills in that gap right before budget season. So
yeah, I think it's, and I do applaud you guys in that solution to the problem that we're looking to solve, which is like exposure to people that are seeking solutions. And like, I'm finding the conferences are becoming less and less effective with respect to being able to connect problem and provider.
Yeah, I think that our associations are so important. I know that conferences, there's a lot of hot takes around conferences and panels and all of that, but I just cannot advocate enough for what our associations do locally, state, national. Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge part of it. I'm the vice president of the apartment association here in Austin, but I feel like if you want to find out what owners and managers are thinking, if you want to get to know regionals who are then later going to become the CEO of the company, there's just no better place to do it than in our associations. And so it's a really good way, I think, to find out why are they not innovating or why do they not like your solution? If you can't afford a focus group, and you go join a committee because somebody's going to get to know you and talk to you and tell you what's going on there. And I also believe that our industry is still a people industry, and we still are really driven by the community. We support each other. We're providing homes, and that is a hard thing and sometimes a really emotional thing for people. So the more we can have community for each other, the better, I think. I'm a big believer in community. Always, always, always. Set a big table.
It's working for your team, for everybody at Multifamily Insiders, right? Like the
Yep.
community play has been remarkably successful, and it's something that, you know, it's a great lead gen, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, this leads to the next question is like, how do people find out about Multifamily Insiders? Like, how do they find out? Like, what do they Google? They're not Googling. Nobody, like I wouldn't articulate my problem in terms in the words Multifamily Insiders, right? So how do they? What are they looking for in Google? How do they find it? Yeah.
I think that a lot of times the easiest way is to make sure that, well, first of all, we're on social media. And I think most of our community is built on social media. I hate saying it because like, oh, right. But it's true. So a lot of times that's where they are finding us. But how they can Google us, they're typically looking for a solution provider. They're looking for something specific like, you know, innovative solutions to XYZ, whatever that topic might be. And then we're coming up as one of those options where they can see all of those solutions right then. Honestly, we haven't focused a ton on what would you Google to get to us, because we've done, and I keep saying I feel like I'm taking credit for something. Brent's been doing this all these years. I just got here and I'm weeing us. Like, he's probably like, girl.
Right. He's appreciating it. He's appreciating it. I'm sure his tears are rolling up right now.
But I think we've done such a great job at having our community built so well. Like, Brent is one of the most connected men in multifamily I've ever seen. Oh, yeah. I will tell you, I got so excited when I grew my LinkedIn following by like this much. And I was like, out of curiosity, I wonder what Brent's is. And I went to Brent's and I was like, oh, you innocent wee baby. You know nothing compared to this. So, you know, it's those relationships that have really driven being able to find us, being able to find out what we do. And people tell each other about it. Like, I would imagine somebody told you, hey, you should reach out to Multifamily Insiders. And that's part of how people find us.
But it just keeps on showing up, right? I had Bob Berg on a few weeks back, and he's an author around the Go Giver concept. And so
I love that book. I recommend it to everyone.
So I used to drive around with 10 copies in my car. But you know,
Guillermo, I lead the Leadership Lyceum here in Austin, and their one assignment. So we have a book lending library. Sorry, I got so excited about this.
Yeah. I'll send you a link to listen to the podcast. He was awesome.
I'm so excited. Their one assignment is for everyone to read The Go Giver. And it is hands down one of my favorite books and one of my favorite concepts.
Yeah, and for anyone, so I started reading that book. So in 2016, my company's acquired, or we sold it. And 2013 was sold. And then 2016, it was time for me to get out. And it was like I was really in this world where I didn't know what to do with myself. Yeah. Right. And I'll say that book has helped me in 2 stages of my career. And why I'm saying this, for everyone out there that's gone through a lot of change this last quarter and a half, which has been happening in this industry, I encourage you even just to go to the site, spend 30 seconds and synthesize what they talk about. Because the 5 laws of stratospheric success are true. And if you do offer first, you will get reciprocity. Yeah. So offer before asking, understand your true value, the law of leverage, like all those things are legitimate truths. And I do think that if the people are feeling down or are stuck, it's an incredible book to get you unstuck about your life.
100%. I just can't believe that you even brought it up, or that you know him, or that you got to talk to that author, because I have been touting that book for you.
Oh, I hope everyone should read it. I really do.
Yeah, I read it. I think for me, for a long time, and maybe this comes with being a female in an executive space, I don't know, but I would sometimes feel a little like icky about sales early on in my sales career, right? I was like, man, I want to do well. I am good at this, but it sometimes didn't leave me feeling like I could sleep at night all too well. And then I learned that, hey, I could help someone solve their problem. I could figure out for them, you know, what they were missing, or that one key that they needed that was going to make a difference for them and their business, or help them buy a house, or, you know, whatever it was they needed. And that was part of what Go Giver did for me, was say, hey, that's actually a key component of business, is giving and connecting people, and it can make you incredibly successful. And so I leaned in really hard into connecting great ideas with great people. And it turns out that Brent was like, we have a job for that. Come on over. That's what we do.
This whole show started because of the Go Giver book.
Yeah.
I said it to Bob when I was chatting with him. It's like, because I need to solve a problem about growing my network in the market. I need to force function learning because I didn't come from multifamily. And so we started this book out this show out to talk to people, because it was the one thing that I could give that without asking, right? And provide a spot for people to talk. And so it's worth it. It's worth a double click. You can read it in an evening, maybe an evening and a half. It's quick.
So Karen Price and I are actually doing a little quick presentation. This is the first time they've ever done it at TAA next week. And it's a book club. So why book clubs are helpful and inspiring at work. And then we're hosting a TAA summer book club. And not to give it all away, but one of the options that we've talked about as being the audience is going to get to choose the book, but is the Go Giver, because I'm always talking about it.
That's amazing. Well, that's fantastic. Well, that's cool. It's an indication of like-mindedness, right? To break out of the fun. Because what I found is that a lot of they're depending on the company, there can be a lot of toxicity, or it could be your position, or it could be your frame of mind, or it could be whatever. Maybe just your bad luck, and it does force you to think about the idea of giving first, because if you do give first, then you're not going to give someone a gift they don't need.
Yeah.
And so it forces you to think about what they're seeking to solve, and then you give it to them. I'm not going to give you a winter parka, right? You live in Austin. That doesn't make any sense, right? So maybe something else is something else, right? And so those things like that, it's really insightful, because as we get into sales and talk about hell yes, the premise of solving some other people's problems repeatedly and regularly is what creates a hell yes buyer.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think, go ahead.
Oh, I was just excited again. Listen, I'm very enthusiastic.
Okay. So we talk about, when they're looking at Google, they find your thought leadership pieces. That's how they you guys, bring them in. That's what happened to me too, with my experience as well, right? I was introduced to you through Stephanie at AA, and we had a chat, and then I got some of your material, and I was like, holy shit, this is incredible. This stuff is so easy to read and helpful to understand the market. So I can borrow your authority on the conversation and speak credibly, because I can cite things that you've already talked about. This may be a little bit given your two-sided marketplace, what other things might people consider before they choose to go to your lab or invest in a demo day or those sort of things? Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it.
What do you compete against?
Yeah. Who are we competing against? I mean, I would love to say no one.
No.
But that's not true. So I know, I'm like, but that's not true. So first off, on our owner and operator side, a lot of times, what they've already tried is whatever they've already tried, and it hasn't worked for them yet, which is why they are looking for a new solution or new innovation. One of the other things I really love is we have a ton of asset managers and owners who join our stuff. And then they are saying, hey, you guys, we need to look at some other options for doing XYZ. And so sometimes it's driven from there. I think for our supplier partners, what they have tried is they're trying to market in all the other ways, right? They're trying to build their brand on social media. They're trying to go to conferences and all those things. It's not that they're wrong or not helpful. It's just that we are also a vital piece that you can add in there, where you can get in front of people who are already primed to make innovation, to make those next steps. I think especially for demo day in particular, it's an opportunity where we filled a piece of the market that wasn't available. It can be really hard for a brand new startup to get in front of anyone in multifamily. Let's just call it. Okay. I think that's the elephant in the room is we're pretty guarded. It's all about who you know often. It's about our community. And so you have a brand new startup and it's like, how are we even going to tell people about us? And so
how do you find the notes?
Yeah,
right?
It's tough. And so with Demo Day, because we have the history of saying, hey, here are some really cool things that we think you should know about. It's not that we're vouching for these supplier partners. We just think this is a cool new idea. We have that quick rapid fire startup section, and it is affordable and it's quick and it's easy. And it's a great way for you to just get in front of people and say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what's so cool. So it really filled a niche that you weren't able to maybe fill with a conference or something else that maybe you weren't ready to invest in or didn't have the capital to invest in yet.
Congratulations to you guys. I mean, we had an incredible outcome from that session, and I think that it exceeded expectations, which doesn't happen very often with advertising and events. And so congratulations to you guys. You guys ran it. What I was most impressed about, and Brent, this goes to you, is I, as a person who's naturally critical, period, and then critical about operations, I was like so impressed at the logistics. You guys killed it.
I will tell you, I've never met anyone more detail oriented. If there is a thought of how something could go wrong or what could happen or how we could do it better, Brent's on top of it. That man is so impressive, and the way his brain works is just magical.
Awesome.
Definitely incredible. And we get so many compliments. Our team, Maya Estrada and Amanda Hill, are absolutely amazing. So I want to thank them because they are running behind the scenes like crazy, trying to make sure those events, which are a lot of coordination, a lot of people, a lot of cameras, making sure people aren't on mute, go off without a hitch. So we have a really incredible team. And Kathleen Woods, who just joined us, is also amazing. So we're going big places.
And not every sales pitch is successful.
No.
You get objections. What do those feel like? What are they like?
You know, for us, often it's the objection of, well, I don't know who's going to be in the audience, or I don't know if this is going to be worth it for us. And so luckily, we have all these great folks that we can turn to and say, hey, go talk to Guillermo, go talk to my friends at RenoWise, go talk to whomever it is that's been with us. It's had a really excellent experience. And we are not afraid of our results because it's good, right? Good, and so we're able to usually overcome those objections pretty quickly. Now, we know, obviously, that when budgets get tight on the operator side, then budgets get really tight on the supplier side. And so, you know, we understand that as well, but we provide a ton of other avenues and different options for people. So typically we're able to overcome objections pretty quick. I'll tell you a really big secret that I hope is okay to say, but we don't actually really have to sell any of the things we do. People really come to us, and we have a waiting list typically for Demo Day. So we're not usually working real hard to overcome an objection because it was such a need in the industry, which I think is the secret, right? Find a need and solve it. And Brent saw this need and saw an opportunity for innovation, and he solved it. And it's been wildly successful because of that.
Well, that would, you know, to your comment about budgets, I mean, and let's kind of go back to the beginning, top of the conversation, like, you know, if there wasn't this crisis, there wouldn't be the desire for change. And so like, the budget accommodation comes from, can you afford to keep doing it the same way?
Yeah.
And the answer is no.
Yeah.
That's uncomfortable.
I know. And I will say one thing that has sometimes gotten me in trouble, but it's true because I was on the other side of the fence with this before. I will tell our supplier partners, they'll say, well, we often are helping them overcome their objections, right? They come to us and they're like, hey guys, how can I sell better? What can I do? And I'll say, I know that you're hearing that this isn't in the budget, but budgets are flexible, right? And if you can solve a problem and you can figure it out for them, that's a construct you can overcome. You know, it's something you can do to, or there is something you can do to highlight that if they don't fix it, it's going to be in a worse place and they're not going to meet their NOI anyhow. So I think our best sellers are able to show that you've tried things. You have tried to solve this problem and you still need my help. So here we are.
No, and I think that like what's emerging as a good slide in every sales deck out there right now is the alternatives slide, right? So here's, you know, and we talk pretty blatantly, directly at kind of like there's two styles of I mean, like in every business, generically speaking, you've got a business problem. You can, and this is like, I was talking earlier about this, is Clayton Christensen, like jobs be done. So jobs be done. So jobs be done means something needs to happen. And so like you can hire someone, you can hire a vendor, a third party, or you can hire a technology. Those are really kind of the three choices. Maybe there's a fourth out there depending on the circumstances, but typically those are your three choices. And so, like in the thing that you guys do, you guys are a vendor, right, to solve that problem. And you're particularly tuned. This is kind of the midpoint wrap up. You're tuned in being able to actually solve that problem because you're a vendor, because you're bias free, because you're filtered. You're hearing all those things. And that makes you especially strong at solving the problem. Which, if you were to hire internally, and there are VPs of innovation in multifamily.
Yes, absolutely. We love them.
Right, of course, because they're probably a principal target for you, right?
Yep.
They've got a job to do.
Yeah.
But the job to be done as an internal VP of innovation, there's less of those than there are opportunities are out there.
Yeah.
So they need a filter. And then there's companies that don't have VPs of innovation at all, and they need to be able to trust somebody to tell them that the water is safe to swim, right? And that kind of thing is exceptionally helpful for the market to create a bit of viscosity around trust and it's safe to swim. It's we can do this. We can make this change.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful because it doesn't exist otherwise. And you look at other industries, the Gartners, the Forresters, they exist as well. So there you go, Brent. I called you like Gartner. I hope you like that.
Yay, we love it.
Yeah, but that exists as well, right? And that's industry specific. And so these things here all need to exist for the whole industry to move forward. And those oasis in the deserts need to be funded by somebody or invested by somebody and started by somebody to make it happen. So congratulations on Brent. I think that's, and what you guys are doing, I can't say enough about it. So let's transition to next week.
Yep.
You're in TAA.
Yes.
And I just talked for probably 20 minutes about how awesome you are at helping us use data to make decisions. So you're talking about?
I am talking about data. So I have 2 sessions at TAA. I love education. And one of my sessions is with the incredible Gina Fraza. She is an executive at RPM, and she's just amazing. We both are really passionate about data, but we're also passionate about its limitations. So our session is lessons from Lego, how good data can lead to bad decisions. And we're just talking about all sorts of great things there. And we've got some case studies to look at. So that'll be super fun. And then the next session is on Friday with the incredible Kara Rice, who, if you do not know her, please get her on here immediately. She is absolutely incredible. And that's our book club session, because clearly I get really fired up about books. So,
yeah, well, I mean, that's outstanding. I think that as you get more and more as an evangelist around data, it's kind of like it's that Spider-Man thing, right? It's how powerful it could be, and so you've got to be responsible with that power.
Yep.
I totally misquoted that, but it's Spider-Man, so I can do whatever I say. And so it's something like that, right? Even responsibility around it, and I think that when we talk about data as a share the same mindset around data, there can be a limitation to pursuing a perfect set of data, and acknowledging that data is inherently not perfect. While it may look like, we used to do a ton of work in completeness versus quality in terms of data assessments. And so just because a field is full doesn't mean it's actually full with right stuff, right? Yeah. And so understand that it's a decision vector in a lot of cases. And I think that what's interesting, and I don't know if this is in your talk, I'm sure it is, but as you move towards AI, which is exceptionally data centric, right, in decision making, it has intuition, but let's say it's codified to not have intuition. The data that we use to make decisions and support our decisions in AI, we need to be able to quality assure that. And so the context around data and decision making is valid. You should check the temperature before you jump in the pool, but know that could be wrong, double check it, trust but verify, all those things. Yeah. And it's about trying to figure out how the data can self-check itself at the lower levels. As an example, if you've ever pressed your brakes on a puddle or on ice or on a slick, you get the thump of your ABS, but you don't second guess the fact that the tires weren't spinning, or all those things, all the mechanics that made that work. But you may recognize that actually may not be what you wanted to do. And so you correct it. And so 99 times out of 100, you might just trust the auto response of the data. but that one time you've got to have a cognitive response to make sure that it does the right thing. And so it's like,
I love that example. I'm laughing because I drive a Subaru. I'm a nerd, right? So of course I drive a Subaru. But I'll tell you that exact example. I was driving down the interstate in Houston and a plastic bag flew in front of my car, and it's auto sensing, don't get in a wreck technology, thought it was a real object and is like slamming on the brakes. And I thought, oh, I'm going to die. I'm going to die because of a plastic bag. Subaru being like, safety.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not to get too far into the weeds, but it's a good example of that. Sometimes with the best intentions, we're making decisions that aren't the right ones. And that's what it really boils down to. And I think too, one thing that I'm really passionate about right now is the sameness that we're all going to get to, the lots of unique ideas, of differentiators for us, because if we're all feeding in the same information and then asking AI for our answers, man, things are going to get monotonous. We're seeing it in housing design. We see it in movie posters, in book covers, and all of that. Like what pleases the masses is the same, but that's not going to differentiate your business or lead you to have a unique idea of how to solve a problem. And so I love AI. I love getting help here and there. It's a great tool, but I think we also need to keep in mind that we've got to keep our creative juices flowing, and we have to be able to think critically. And I don't want us to lose our critical thinking skills or be afraid to make a choice that makes us different, because so often that's what catapults a business forward.
As we were chatting yesterday, like it's horsepower. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's horsepower. It's a power screwdriver versus a power drill versus a screwdriver. It's whatever. It's 600 horsepower versus 200 horsepower.
Yeah.
Helps you go faster. If you're going in the wrong direction, you will go wrong. You will go faster in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
I think it's also in some ways an equalizer, which is great, but then it's also creating, and we see this, everybody sees it. It's creating content that all looks the same. It's creating marketing copy that all looks the same because it's all coming from the same source. So I just want us to be really thoughtful around that. And that's a tiny part of the conversation, but yeah, I digress.
But it's true. I would say that the floor has been raised.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's no bad copying. There's no excuse for bad copy anymore. Right. But it all kind of looks the same.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And so it's up to us to use it as horsepower, but make sure that we're appealing to the market we're selling to.
Yeah.
So one thing just to put out there, and this is just because I've had this in the last like probably 2 weeks of conversations. I think something to think about to tie this all together around the data piece, around the innovation piece, around the owners and operators and the suppliers. There could be a course that Brent could initialize and you could initialize around how to run a pilot.
Yeah.
Right? Because the source of innovation comes from experimentation, because it's not a fit for everybody. And so structuring a data-centric pilot to arrive at a cognitive decision around to scale or not scale.
Yeah.
Because the first question that everybody gets, every seller in the Proptech side of things gets, is do you integrate with 1, 2, 3?
Yep.
Right? When that is not the problem we're trying to solve today. We're not trying to solve a scale problem at this point. We're trying to solve a maintenance problem or a leasing problem or a fraud problem.
Right.
So, my position on 25 years of integrating systems is integrating into a system is a lot of overhead for both you and I. Mm-hmm. So let's make sure that this is worth it first. And then, so maybe both the Proptech founders out there or sellers out there and the operators to understand what a mutually structured pilot looks like so that it's safe to experiment, to de-risk the experimentation, de-risk the decision, and we can arrive at a data-driven decision on what to do next. A lot of times in a pilot, you get a lot of learning out of it that you may not have done before. We often go into pilots and people have they may have a stacked solution of what they want to do, but then they realize that intention is been nullified by the results of the pilot. And so that would be a useful thing, I think, for everyone. Well, at least just recently, in the last 2 weeks, had a lot of conversations on pilots.
Yeah,
and,
I think.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think it's really helpful too for your teams. I think there's a lot of concern for our teams right now and their bandwidth, which is a logical. It makes sense. And I think a lot of times if you're able to pilot something, you can kind of wipe out a lot of those concerns early on, because you can say, hey, this turned out it wasn't that bad for our teams, or it gave them more manpower back, or it gave them more hours. It helped reduce this friction, or it helped solve this problem, versus just that fear of, if we implement another thing, because that is what we hear all the time, right? My teams can't handle it, or they've already done so much. And I'm like, yeah, but this is going to help them. This is going to fix things for them. So I think a lot of times a pilot can really solve a lot of that problem for you, of your objections too.
Definitely. So looking back on your career, or maybe people that are just joining Multifamily Insiders, in the context of getting to hell yes, right? What's a bit of advice you'd give either a younger self, or, somebody you're just getting on your team, or someone who's looking to get out of a rut, to help them get unblocked?
Oh man, I think the advice I would give to people is go and do good, right? We talked so much about go giver, and lean into who you are and what you love. I will say for a long time, I kind of was a secret nerd, because it kind of didn't fit like the, corporate sales persona that I had. And then I found out, oh, people actually want to know about this stuff, or they care that I'm reading the Harvard Business Journal every morning, or whatever it is that I'm focused on. And so I leaned into that really heavily, and I found out that that was a little niche that I could fill in a spot that, I really excelled at. And so I ended up being in AEI faculty and leading the Leadership Lyceum and all these other opportunities. So I know it sounds so cheesy, and I'm a mom, but be who you are. Be yourself. It really makes a difference in the industry. And when you're, being authentic, then you can show up, and other people will be vulnerable with you, and you're able to help solve their problems and get to hell yes a lot faster, because they trust you and you're authentic. So be who you are.
I think the thing about being authentic is it's less work.
Yeah.
Right. It's a whole lot less work.
Yeah.
To just be unapologetic about who you are.
Yeah.
And say, it's, if they say one thing about me or about you, it's going to be, well, you're going to get what you're going to get.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of like, that's the bargain,
Yeah. Yeah. And it really, it makes a difference in business overall. I mean, I didn't know that saying, oh yeah, I read a book about that, would lead to all these great relationships or all these great opportunities. And so who knew that being a book nerd was the way to do it, right? But it is. It's just be who you are, be authentic. It matters. It really makes a difference. Yeah.
Outstanding. So who should we talk to next?
Okay. I've been thinking about this nonstop because I was so excited about it. So first is John Carlson, the CEO at Mark Taylor. So if we haven't talked to him, he's incredible. He is doing some amazing work around centralization and is really innovating. So I think he's great. And then next is Joe Porritt with Brodsky. So he is doing some really cool stuff in the Northeast, which I think doesn't always get our attention. We're focused on like what's happening in California or Texas. But just really has some great ideas and is doing some neat things in his communities that I think are awesome. So those two folks always. And then I already told you, talk to Kara.
Right.
She's my girl. She's amazing. She's got the data, way smarter than I am, absolutely brilliant, but really focused on employee satisfaction and how that makes a difference in our business. So those are my three.
I love it. That is so generous. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Well, everybody, thank you for listening today. We're going to be on the podcast, be out in a week or so. Apple, Spotify, it's there. Like it, subscribe it, give it the comments. Those are all good for everything. You're going to see us on LinkedIn Live. There'll be some posts and stuff. So feel free to comment on that. This will be live out there. So if you see it and watching this non-live, comment on it. We'll get notified. We're happy to jump on and add some more info and questions or clarifications. Best way to get a hold of you.
LinkedIn is really it. Please connect with me on LinkedIn or follow me on LinkedIn. And then if not, my email address, ckneeland@multifamilyinsiders.com. I love an email. I love, hey, can we chat? Can we talk about whatever? Clearly, I'm a talker. I'm a yapper. I love it.
So if you're trying to get unstuck about the way things have been going and seeking some ideas, reach out to Chelsea.
Yeah, thank you.
You'll help you get unstuck. That's amazing. Outstanding. Thank you for joining today. I'm just all smiles. I'm at AIM next week, and I'll see you at TAA later on in the week. So if anybody's out there, reach out to us. We're happy to grab a cup of coffee or a beverage and talk about ideas and jam on stuff. And thank you everyone for listening today. Thank you for all the comments throughout. We really appreciate the engagement. It keeps the conversation going. And thank you for all the good that you do. Love your reports. I'll geek out on it as well. And hey, give me an invite to the book club. I'd love to join.
Everybody come to the book club. It'd be great.
All right. Thanks, Chelsea. Take care. All right. Thanks, everyone. All right.